Hello students, welcome to our channel that is Physics in a Smart Way. Today's topic is an issue of two-dimensional motion and so far as two-dimensional motion is concerned, the most popular two-dimensional motion that a student sees or we see is a projectile motion. So we are considering the projectile. Okay. So far as a projectile is concerned, we know we have considered a level ground which is taken as x-axis, y-axis is vertical, acceleration due to gravity as usual, that is g. With the help of g, projectile motion is there. We throw a body in an inclined way. Initial velocity is u, angle is theta, that almost all of you do know. Okay, and you know the body makes a path and the path is like this. And some of you also know that the path will be, or the curve that the body traces will be a parabolic. Okay, forget it. Maybe a parabola, maybe an ellipse, maybe a circle, doesn't matter now. Our issue is something different. So far as a projectile motion is concerned, traditionally, the way it is taught to us, we are being taught several formulas. One formula is time of flight. I have just given it, time of flight equal to 2u sine theta by g. Second is the formula of maximum height, the highest height that the body can go up. Third formula is the formula of the range, that is the horizontal distance it covers. It covers from starting point to finishing point. The point of start is marked at S. The point of finish is marked at F. The highest point on the path I have marked it as M, meaning somewhat as midpoint, or you may mark it as H, just as is your. We have marked it as M. The range of the projectile, the maximum height is given, that is the time of height. This is maximum height, that is the range. My point is, in my earlier videos, the thing that I stressed upon is that we should not be over dependent on the formulas, because somehow I feel formulas are secondary. The primary is your thinking, in which way you try to analyze, in which way you try to think. Your entire analysis, maybe you are going for solving a question, maybe you are thinking something else that relates to physics, that depends on that. Okay, so here, the way our syllabus goes, the teacher forces us to remember all those formulas, the formula of time of height, the formula of height, the formula for the range, and we also got some other secondary formulas like with a given initial speed, maximum range occurs at theta equal to 45 degree, because then sine 2 theta will be having the maximum value, okay, and that R maximum equal to u square by 2g. And the last point is that with a given speed, we make u same. Let us say u equal to 10 meter per second or 20 meter per second. Every time we throw the body with the same speed, but at different angles. Angle can be made anything starting from 0 to 90 degree. So thereby, you'll be seeing that with a given initial speed, the same range is possible with two different angle of projection if they are theta 1 and theta 2, and the sum of them will be 90 degree. Usually these things are taught whenever the teacher touches or the books takes up the case of projectile motion. We shall come down to our point. My point is that even if we do not remember, okay, you should not mistake me. I am not trying to advise you that you try to forget the formulas. You don't remember the formulas. No. My point is that we remove our over dependency on the formulas. So I am taking the help of an example, a question with which We shall prove that even if you do not have got all those formulas, still a student can go for a decent solution, and that too not only decent, a very quick solution. Okay, I am giving you the question now. Okay, as promised, let us start with a question. The question gives, a ball is thrown from the level ground with an initial speed of 50 meters per second, making an angle of, that angle is given as theta equal to tan inverse of 4/3 with the horizontal. You may be slightly irritated why the theta is not given as, why theta is not given as 30 degree, 45 degree and 60 degree. But believe me, that is a much better way to present the angle. That will be much easier to tackle with the horizontal. Okay, considering acceleration due to gravity g equal to 10 meters per second square, find. There are so many cases, there are so many things you can find. In this case, as a sample, I have given you 3. We also will be going for other questions, but due to lack of space, in this page, I have only mentioned 3 questions. Its time of flight, maximum height, and range. Okay. Second question, its velocity after 1 second. Third, its position after 1 second. Let's get back to our bit 1. The first bit question, its time of flight, maximum height, and range. Okay. Let us come down to analysis. So far as the projectile motion is concerned, you know the body moves in a curved path and we got the motion, we brand the motion as a 2-dimensional motion. Some people say the 2-dimensional motion means here, in this case, exactly in our question, horizontal motion and vertical motion, they are mixed up. As the body goes from a point to point, we can clearly see, because the path is like this, during its displacement, during the motion, the body is shifting itself horizontally. At the same time, for some time, the body also goes up vertically and again comes down. So there is horizontal motion and there is vertical motion. Some of our books and teachers, they usually are of a habit of separating the motion, the entire projectile motion, into horizontal and vertical parts. They say the analysis is easy if you divide the motion, if you separate the motion into its horizontal and vertical constituents. Okay, I don't claim it's wrong. It's easy. But if somebody asks me a question that without separating the horizontal and vertical motion, taking the projectile motion as a single entity, can't it be done? Answer also is yes. There are so many ways to tackle a projectile motion, but let us go in a traditional way where our books and teachers, they say, if you are dealing with a 2-dimensional motion or a projectile motion, it is better to divide horizontal and vertical motion and study them separately. At last, in the end, combine our conclusion, combine the things that we have found out together to have the final answer or to have the final conclusion. Now, let us say, we start to think, as the body is going from, this is the point of start, that is the point of finish as you have marked earlier, and that is the midpoint or the highest point of our path. As the body goes from starting to finishing via the midpoint, if we think of time of flight and try to think in a way on which issue, on which motion the time of flight depends. My point is, we know we are thinking of the projectile motion. It is a mixture of 2 motions, horizontal motion and vertical motion. So on which part, it may be horizontal motion or vertical motion, on which thing the time of flight depends. Time of flight means how much time the ball or the body spends in air. If a student says it depends upon horizontal motion, answer will be no, because horizontal motion, it seems as if that is dragging the body, that tries to drag the body on the ground. For how much time the body remains on air, that depends upon vertical things. For or to what height the body goes, that also depends upon the vertical things. Horizontal motion only tries to drag the body horizontally along X. Here horizontal motion and motion along X are equal. And vertical motion we have also branded as Y motion. So for how much time the body will be remaining in air, that depends upon vertical motion, not on horizontal motion. Horizontal motion doesn't at all try to lift the body up, or that doesn't want that body must be spending some time in the air. If you, let us say, if you delete the vertical motion, only give the body some horizontal motion, give the ball horizontal motion, that will be trying to drag, that will be trying to make the ball to slide on the ground. Okay, the vertical motion only lifts it up, and the motion is like this. So if the vertical motion is behind the issue, or if vertical motion controls the issue that body will be spending time in air, or how much time the body will be spending time on air, let us forget the horizontal motion. We concentrate only on the vertical motion. If you forget the horizontal motion and only take the vertical motion, as you know, the initial velocity is u. We have divided u as per our plan. We have divided u into two parts. We have resolved u into two parts. The horizontal part of the velocity, as you know, since the time of scalar and vector, will be equal to u cos theta, and that is equal to 30 meter per second, because cos theta equal to 3 by 5 and sin theta equal to 4 by 5, as because angle of projection is given as tan inverse of 4 by 3. So going for school level geometry, we got this is 4, that is 3, and hypotenuse must be equal to 5, and from that we immediately get the value of cos theta and sin theta. Okay, so thereby the horizontal part of the velocity will be equal to u cos theta, that is equal to 30 meter per second, and vertical part of velocity or vertical velocity will be equal to u sin theta, because u is given as 50 meter per second and sin theta here we get as 4 by 5. So 50 into 4 by 5 will be equal to 40 meter per second. That means when the ball starts off, somebody must say it is starting off with an initial velocity equal to 50 meter per second in an inclined way, or somebody, if he or she says that it is having a combined velocity which is horizontal 30 meter per second and vertical 40 meter per second, that is also okay. So coming back to our issue, the time of flight, we know time of flight is controlled by vertical motion. And whenever you vertical motion, the trick is you completely forget about the projectile or completely forget about the horizontal motion especially. We only concentrate on the vertical motion. If you concentrate on the vertical motion, then you know there is no horizontal motion, we assume. So u50 we forget, ux that is 30 meter per second we forget. Only we try to keep in our mind that ball is thrown vertically with a velocity of 40 meter per second. So the motion will look like as if the ball is going up straight, no left or right shift, because there is no horizontal motion. The ball is going straight with an initial velocity of 40 meter per second, goes to the highest height and again comes back and again falls on the ground. That is the vertical part of the motion. Already we know the meaning of acceleration, that is acceleration due to gravity, and here gravity equal to 10 meter per second square. When the body is going up, everybody is aware that gravity will be decreasing the velocity, decreasing the vertical velocity. At what rate? Every second velocity must be decreasing at a rate of 10 meter per second square. Okay, already that we have discussed the issue of acceleration in our earlier videos. So tell me, if vertical velocity is 40 meter per second and every second when the ball is, till the time the ball is going up, the gravity equal to 10, that is decreasing at a rate of 10 meter per second square, how much time gravity does require to completely eat away the velocity, to completely destroy the velocity, we know time will be obviously that is 4 seconds, because every second gravity will be deleting 10, 10, 10, 10, and we got initial stock of 40 meters per second. So the ball will be going up for 4 seconds, and again the same gravity will be recreating the motion. So time of ascent, as because you know must be equal to time of descent, same gravity is controlling. So going up time will be 4 seconds, coming down time will be 4 seconds. So 4 plus 4, total time of flight equal to 8 seconds. Is my point clear or not? Okay, if it is not clear, I must request you to comment it so that I will be more elaborate in my future videos. So again, I am repeating, initial vertical velocity was 40 meters per second. When the ball is going up in the upward motion, that is from S to M, in the upward motion, gravity will be decreasing the velocity. In the downward motion, gravity will be increasing it. So because initial stock is 40 and gravity equal to 10, so every second velocity will be decreasing by 10. So the ball must be taking 10 seconds to finish its upward journey. And going up time is same as going down time, that is the time of descent. Okay, so 4 seconds plus 4 seconds, total time equal to 8 seconds. My point is that we don't require any formula. Yes, we know. In the earlier page, we got a formula of time of flight, that is 2u sine theta by g. If you apply that formula, you'll be getting exactly 8 seconds. But in my view, that is not the way a student should be trained to think. Our mind must be doing some analysis, okay? And if you are able to have the answer without the help of formula, that is very good. It is very good. So time of flight equal to, so to say, 8 seconds. Now, consider the vertical motion again. We are going for the maximum height. We are going for the maximum height. We know maximum height is the vertical displacement. Is the vertical displacement, that is h. If I separate the vertical motion, you know our initial vertical velocity was 40 meters per second. We remember g, that is 10 meters per second square. If I separate vertical motion, then ball without going to the right or to the left will be going straight up. At the highest point, we know vertical velocity must be 0. Vertical velocity must be 0. Sorry. Vertical velocity must be 0. Some of you might be wondering why it is 0. If vertical velocity is still there, then body would have climbed further. So at the highest point, vertical velocity is 0. I am not talking of horizontal velocity. Some horizontal velocity may be there, but we have completely forgotten that. And you know, time of upward travel equal to 4 seconds. Already we have decided. So now if you try to find the displacement, so that displacement from here to here will be nothing but maximum height. And you know that displacement will be average velocity, average vertical velocity into time of travel. Average vertical velocity, as I have explained in the earlier videos, will be initial velocity plus final velocity by 2. So that is 40 plus 0 by 2. That is nothing but 20 meters per second into vertical upward travel. Upward vertical travel is only for 4 seconds. Don't make it 8 seconds. 8 seconds is total time, going up or coming down. We are taking only going up time. So thereby 20 into 4, that must be equal to 80 meters. I think I am clear. Okay, that is the value of height or the maximum height. Then we are going for the horizontal range. So far as horizontal range is concerned, if somebody asks you, tell me what sort of physical quantity the range is, then our answer will be range is a displacement. Then the next question will be, is it a horizontal displacement or vertical displacement? Our answer will be obviously that is horizontal displacement. So if it is horizontal displacement, we must focus on the horizontal motion and try to forget the vertical motion. So we concentrate only on the horizontal motion. As I have told you earlier, the trick here is to focus on only the horizontal motion, try to forget everything else. So if you consider the horizontal motion, we know you have learned that, and most of you, that horizontal motion, in horizontal motion there is no acceleration. That's because during the flight of the ball, only force that acts on the body is the weight of the ball, that is the gravity force. And gravity force is a vertical force, and vertical force has got nothing to do so far as horizontal motion or X motion is concerned. And to our knowledge, there is no such force which is acting on the horizontal motion or which is acting on the body in the horizontal direction. Gravity and all those issues, they will be considered when you consider vertical motion. They have got simply no place so far as horizontal motion is there. So to our knowledge, there is no force acting on the body in the horizontal direction. We consider the projectile motion in vacuum, in the absence of air. So because horizontal motion, there is no force, so horizontal acceleration must be equal to 0. Horizontal acceleration must be equal to 0. So if horizontal acceleration is 0, then obviously horizontal motion must be a motion with constant velocity. And in case of constant velocity, we know the formula of the displacement must be equal to simply velocity into time. Velocity doesn't go through a change. So range is the horizontal displacement, and you know, to cover the range, we must consider the total time of motion, that is the time of flight. So we put range equal to horizontal velocity, that is ux, into the time of flight, ux equal to 30 meter per second into time of flight, that is 8. So 8 into 3, that is 240 meter per second. 240 meters, sorry. So now we see, we can find out the formula of time of flight. We have found out the formula of maximum height. We have found out the formula of range using our fundamental analysis, not just merely putting in the formulas and waiting for the answer, waiting for the thing that the formula will be giving us the answer. That is a better way to tackle with the motion. That will be enhancing our fundamental. That will make our thinking on physics strong. Depending on the formulas, yes, they have got their own merit. It's okay. If you have remembered the formula, it's okay, well and good. But don't be over dependent on them. That is my point. Okay. Now we are going for the second question in this issue. It's velocity after 1 second. So far as the velocity after 1. Okay, student, let us come back to our issue. That is the second question. The second question, that is velocity after 1 second. We assume that the body starts its motion at time t equal to 0. That means velocity at 1 second is asked. Velocity at 1 second means velocity is a vector. We have to find its magnitude, as well as we have to also indicate the direction, and direction here is indicated by the angle alpha that it makes with the horizontal. Okay, as earlier we have discussed the issue, our traditional way of teaching, traditional way of learning of projectile motion is going via the way where we divide the motion into horizontal and vertical parts and try to settle up the things, try to find the answer, going separately for horizontal motion, going separately for vertical motion. Ultimately, at the end, we combine the things and get back to the answer. Okay. So if you allow me to go via that way, we consider horizontal motion. If you consider horizontal motion, okay, and that too as the starting point S. Let us say at t equal to 1 second, the body is at the point P, crossing the point P. So now you are interested in the motion from S to P. And mark my words, you are not interested in the whole motion. You are interested in the horizontal part of the motion from S to P, because I have made a heading of horizontal motion. If under that heading, I go for the formula that, and you know horizontal motion also is x motion, okay? Vx equal to ux, then you have to agree with me, because already we have discussed that in case of horizontal motion, there is no acceleration as ax equal to 0 or horizontal acceleration equal to 0. If acceleration equal to 0, then velocity doesn't go through a change. Okay, so horizontal velocity here, ux was equal to 30 meters per second. So if a student blindly puts that velocity vx or the horizontal part of the velocity here as 30 meters per second, we all have to agree with that, because horizontally velocity never goes through a change. Okay, I forgot to mention one thing, because velocity after 1 second is asked, and our way of thinking, our way of analyzing was to approach via horizontal motion and vertical motion, separating them. So we don't aim to find the velocity directly in one go. Rather, we go in finding its x and y components. So once we find this horizontal or x component and y component, we know finally combining it, we can find the whole velocity. We can find the whole velocity, that is v. Okay, that is our approach, that is our style. We don't try to find out velocity as a whole. Rather, we are more interested in its horizontal and vertical component. However it is, we already know that Bx equal to, or vertical, the horizontal part of the velocity here equal to 30 meters per second. Then we go for the next heading, vertical. So we consider vertical motion. So far as vertical motion is there, and again you consider the part of the motion, not the whole projectile motion, but only S to P. And whatever we write below that, we know this heading is to control that. We know vertical motion is a motion which is controlled by gravity. Gravity is a constant acceleration, value of g equal to 10 meters per second. Okay. And under that vertical motion heading, we put down the equation that v equal to u plus at. V equal to u plus at. We know that is a equation which is valid for constant acceleration, and now our heading is vertical motion. So in all reality, the exact meaning of the term will be, if somebody asked, you brother, you have written V, what do you mean by V? We have to answer that, okay, you see, V is final velocity, and here V is not only final velocity, it is final vertical velocity, because we are studying vertical motion exclusively. Or somebody may brand that is Vy, because vertical velocity or the vertical motion is same as y motion. Similarly, u is initial velocity, but under this heading, u is not merely initial velocity, that is especially uy, or initial vertical velocity. And acceleration here is ay, or the vertical acceleration. Time has got no vertical horizontal part. We know time is given to be 1 second. Okay. So now we try to go further. That will be equal to uy. Initial vertical velocity is 40 meters per second. Normally, as you know, so far as the sign convention of vertical motion is concerned, people take upward vectors positive. Initial vertical velocity is upward, that is 40 meters per second. That is a positive velocity, but acceleration due to gravity is downward, that will be taken as negative. Okay, plus ay. Come back to the equation. Ay is vertical acceleration. You know there is nothing but g. Vertical acceleration is nothing but g is downwards, and that is taken as a negative vector. So that is minus 10 into time equal to 1. So that becomes 40 minus 10, that is 30 meter per second. So now you got the value of the vertical velocity there, that is Vy equal to 30 meter per second. Okay. Earlier we have found out Vx equal to 30 meter per second, and now you got vertical velocity is 30 meter per second. So now our common sense says V must be equal to, or total velocity must be equal to, or complete velocity must be equal to Vx square plus Vy square, and we know that must be equal to 30 square plus 30 square. You can take it common, or our common sense, that is 30 root 2 meter per second. If you are trying to express the answer in decimals, you can do as 1.414, you can have it. I am stopping there. Okay. And this angle alpha, as we know, must be equal to 45 degree, as you can clearly see, because if you try to construct a vector triangle taking Vx and Vy and V, that vector triangle will be like this. This is Vx, that is 30. From the head of Vx, starts Vy. Vy also equal to 30, and V is the resultant of Vx and Vy, and everybody knows resultant is always from the tail of the first vector is drawn from the tail of the first vector to the head of the last vector. If it is 30, this is 30, then you are looking at a right angle isosceles. You are looking at a right angle isosceles. This angle equal to 45 degree. So alpha equal to 45 degree. Or somebody may say, if you are going for the board exam or something like that, you may say alpha equal to tan inverse. If you write it elaborately, of course, tan inverse Vy by Vx, you can refer to the triangle here. Vy by Vx, that is equal to tan inverse of 30 by 30, that is 1, that equal to 45 degree. Did you get me or not? I think it's okay. But that is our solution. If we go in the traditional way, dividing the motion into its horizontal and vertical constituents, that is our approach. If now a student tries to think, is having a question in his or her mind that, am I to divide the motion every time whenever I see a projectile case? Can the projectile motion be dealt with in one go? That means without dividing its horizontal, vertical constituents. If you ask me that question, my answer will be readily yes. You can tackle with a projectile motion without dividing the motion into its constituents. So let us try to approach this question, which we have solved completely via another way. So I am going for that. Okay. The same issue, but our approach will be, our thinking will be slightly different. Okay, so let us go to that approach which we have just discussed. The velocity at the point P is to be found out. This is time t equal to 0, that is the start, and that is time t equal to 1 second. From 0 to 1 second, what is going from S to P, we know it already. So our objective was, without breaking the motion or separating or resolving the motion into its horizontal and vertical, or maybe you can say X and Y constituents, X and Y components, can't we deal with the motion in one go? Sometimes students, they fear. Maybe their thinking is that body is moving in a curved path, So whether we will be able to apply the formulas like V equal to U plus AT, S equal to UT plus half AT square, V square equal to U square plus twice S for a curve motion when the body is moving in a curve. So those type of inhibitions are there. But we do know the projectile motion is a motion with constant acceleration. Acceleration due to gravity controls the entire thing. Acceleration due to gravity, it controls the entire thing. And acceleration due to gravity is a constant acceleration, which we assume so. So if acceleration is constant, then any time we can apply the formula V equal to U plus AT, S equal to UT plus half AT square, V square equal to U square plus twice S. There is no such restriction. It is not that body is moving with a constant acceleration, and again a second condition is put that it is moving in a straight line. Then only you can use the formula V equal to U plus AT, S equal to UT plus half AT square, and V square equal to U square plus twice S. No such thing. Constant acceleration, body may be moving in any fashion. If acceleration is constant, we can be able to use the formulas of kinematics that V equal to U plus AT, all those things you know. So here, you look at my heading, I have taken the motion from S to P. And mind it, earlier you used to take horizontal part of motion. Our heading was horizontal part of motion, or maybe vertical part of motion from S to P. But here, we don't divide the motion, we don't resolve the motion. We take the total motion from S to P. And I am putting in the formula that V equal to U plus AT. Whenever you are doing this way, please be careful that this is a vector equation. So V means final velocity vector, U means initial velocity vector, it is acceleration vector, time is of course a scalar quantity. Okay, strictly if there is any vector present in your equation, then that must be taken in a vector way. I think I am clear. We go to the right hand side, we leave left hand side as it is. U, initial velocity vector. You know initial velocity U was equal to 50 meter per second, that was the magnitude, but its x component and y component was 30 meter per second and 40 meter per second. So if I present initial velocity vector in your old style, that is I cap, j cap, k cap way, we know initial velocity should be written as a full-fledged vector in terms of 30 I cap plus 40 j cap. I think you have understood me. Okay, plus acceleration. We know in case if in place of acceleration, g will be coming. Value of g is again 10 meter per second square, and you know g is a downward vector that is in the negative y direction minus j cap direction, and value equal to 10. So in place of acceleration, we put minus 10 j cap. I'm not putting in the units, okay, to make it clean, into time equal to 1. So thereby, when you balance it, we know v vector will be equal to, that implies v vector equal to your 30 I cap plus 40 j cap, say we have, that is minus j cap, j cap minus, so plus that will be 30 j cap. That is the final velocity vector. That is the final velocity vector, and you know, we know, once you see final velocity vector in this way, we clearly are able to see that its x component will be along positive x direction and a value 30, y component will be upward or in positive y direction and of a value 30. So Vx equal to 30 meter per second, of course, and Vy equal to 30, which we have earlier also, we have found out so, and obviously V equal to, or V magnitude will be equal to, that is 30 root 2, which is already ascertained meter per second. Is it clear? And because the x component and y component, they are equal in magnitude, with a bit of common sense, we can say that this angle alpha will be equal to 45 degree. Okay, I'm not explaining these very simple tidbits. This must be left to the student. You can easily find out, okay? Because we cannot go for spoon feeding. Spoon feeding makes us lazy, makes us idle. So that way, considering the motion from S to P in one go, you can be able to find out, but our approach must be a pure vector approach. Okay, clear? I think we go for, okay, we go for the third question, which says we have to find the position of the ball at t equal to 1 second. Here also the time instant is same and the position is again p. So what is the position of the ball at t equal to 1 second? If we try to analyze that, if we consider the starting point as S, which we have already considered, maybe that is the reference point or reference origin 0, 0. To define the position or to mark the position, here we are doing it in x and y way. If I know the value of x and y, then the position is already known. The coordinate is known. Or else the same thing can be said, x is nothing but the horizontal displacement as the body is going from S to P. Mark my words. X is nothing but the horizontal displacement as the body is going from S to P. Similarly, y is nothing but the vertical displacement as the body is going from S to P. So you may talk in terms of horizontal and vertical displacements, or you may talk in terms of coordinates. Both are same. They do not make any great difference. And you know, here if x and y are found out, then obviously, as you have taught, you know the position. And because x is horizontal displacement, y is vertical displacement, we have to go in for the study of horizontal motion and vertical motion. So I do exactly that. We consider, but always think in terms of heading. You may be able to you may be able to write it or not, doesn't matter. That depends upon time and how much space you can afford in your copy. So we consider the horizontal motion from S to P. So if you consider the horizontal motion from S to P, again, we are in a mode, as you can see, we are dividing the motion into two parts. We are considering only horizontal motion, deleting or completely we are oblivious of the vertical motion, horizontal motion from S to P. Under that, I consider the second equation of kinematics, that is S equal to ut plus half a t square. Somebody here can say horizontal motion, or somebody can put in the heading as x motion. Both are ditto, both are same. We know here the meaning and equation, the terms, the meaning of the terms are usually vague. You know it. They are usually vague until you put in the equation under a certain heading. S, if somebody takes the equation S equal to ut plus half a t square, you know S stands for displacement. But it is displacement for whom? For which body? For which motion? But the moment you put in a heading, then S becomes meaningful. Here the meaning of S, or here S strictly means S is horizontal displacement because you are studying horizontal motion, and that is from S to P, which already we have marked as X. So confidently I can write in place of S as X is equal to U. U is initial velocity, but under this heading, U is strictly initial horizontal velocity. Horizontal velocity and that too initial means we know that is 30 meter per second. So in place of u, we put in 30 into time equal to 1 plus half. We know acceleration. Here acceleration, somebody may confused and put in g. No, you are asked about acceleration, and because you are studying horizontal motion, that should be horizontal acceleration. And you know, in a projectile motion, usually there is no horizontal acceleration. So far as our syllabus is concerned, into t square, whatever you put in, doesn't matter, the thing becomes zero. So that gives us plainly that x equal to 30 meters. I think I am clear. Next, our job is to find out y, and you know y is y coordinate, or also we have defined y as the vertical displacement as one goes from S to P. And because you have to find the vertical displacement, we have to go in for the study of vertical motion. So we consider vertical motion just like you have done horizontal motion here. We consider vertical motion from your S to P. So if you take the vertical motion from S to P, and under that, we put in the same equation that S equal to ut plus half t square, S equal to ut plus half t square. Here S means vertical displacement from S to P, which we have branded as y. So in place of S, we must write y. And u means initial vertical velocity, because we are studying vertical motion and you must stand for vertical velocity. And here we must not forget the sign convention. Horizontal motion, we may not be so careful, but for vertical motion, we know there are many vertical vectors available which are upward in upward direction. Other vectors are downward like g and all that. So we use the same age-old convention that in case of vertical motion, study any vector that is pointing upward is taken as positive, any vector pointing downward is to be taken as negative. So u means here initial vertical velocity. Initial vertical velocity is 40 and in upward direction. So that must be taken as positive 40 or plus 40 into time equal to 1 plus half. A means vertical acceleration. Immediately we know gravity will be jumping in, that is a downward vector, and you know that must be minus 10 into t square, that is 1 square. So that gives you 40 minus 5, that is 35 meters. Is it clear? Okay. So x we found out as 30 meters and y we found out as 35 meters. Once x and y are found out, our job is over. Now, again, some of you may be wondering, can't we find out the value of x and y in one go? If you ask me that question, then my answer will be yes. We need not divide the motion into two parts, horizontal motion and vertical motion. If you take the complete motion, also you can be able to find out. But mind it, that doesn't mean that the study of motion by dividing horizontal and vertical way is not a useless type of study or something like that. They have got their own benefit. They have got their own benefit. But if a student tries to find out using not dividing the motion into horizontal and vertical motion, then he or she may consider the complete motion, that is alternative. The complete motion, and keep in mind, I am taking complete motion, not horizontal vertical, from S to P. So if you take the complete motion from S to P, and again I take the equation that S equal to your ut plus half t square, but you know already we have discussed in bit 2 or in the last question, this must be taken as a strictly vector equation. Emphasizing that, to emphasize that, I am putting the vector sign small arrows. Here S is displacement. And you know displacement vector from S to P, because horizontal part is X and vertical part is Y. You may talk in terms of position vector, but I am not elaborating it further. The displacement from S to P, as you can clearly see, must be written as xi cap plus yj cap. Is it clear? Okay, will be equal to initial velocity vector. Horizontal part is 30, vertical part is 40. So that is 30 I cap plus 40 j cap into time is t plus half acceleration. Acceleration is gravity, but if you put that in ijk way, that must be branded as, that must be branded as 10 minus 10 j cap into t square. T is 1, obviously 1 square. If you make it systematic, that implies on the LHS we got xi cap and yj cap. On the RHS, if you collect all the items together, all the j terms together, and we know the warning is always there, don't mix up I and j. They have to stay separate. They are independent of each other. That is 30 I cap plus 35 j cap. If you balance it, now you can clearly see that LHS, it says xi cap plus yj cap equal to 30 I cap plus 35 j cap. Now balancing the terms containing I of left and right, balancing terms containing j cap on left and right, we know that implies your x equal to 30, of course, meters, and y equal to 35. The same answer you are getting here, no problem. I think I am clear. So it depends upon our approach. And one thing at last, you can see, we have taken 3 bit questions on the issue. Apart from bit 1, in bit 2 and in bit 3, because you are not supposed to study the complete motion where the body starts from the ground and ends again on the ground, you are only asked on the part of a motion, you know, in bit 2 and bit 3, we cannot use our regular formulas of time of flight, range, maximum height, and all those things. That is my point. You cannot use them because we are not studying the complete motion. Only a part of motion is to be discussed. So the formulas, those we got for planetary motion, time of flight, range and height, they are limited in their use. Okay, so that's all for this question. We shall not elaborate, otherwise our video will be too long. There are some other bits, our discussion is not complete. I will be considering that on some other day. Thank you.